You gotta love this game, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Here I am waiting for dang near 5 hours for these live feeds to return, waiting for these Power of Veto results, because this was by far one of the most crazy weekends of feeds since the Frenchie days, since the Funhouse days. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, in the rant tonight, I had to call it a deep dive because there's so many things I gotta make sense out of for you all. Yes, to the layman, it's pretty quite self explanatory where the strategy is leaning towards this week in terms of Derek Xiao Khan's HOH reign. But it's a lot more complicated than how it looks on the surface, ladies and gentlemen. So please allow me to break down all the subtle nuances and intricacies and make everything simplistic for you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the critically acclaimed, the Pop the Trunk podcast, now Patreon exclusively sponsored Hall of Fame. Recency Bias Radio. With me, of course, is your humble host, Dave Smith, and this is where no one is safe from criticism. But I'm also known as Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Smith Dog Trill, The Rant God, Hotep Thanos, Oh, dang, I think I messed that up. Oh, let's start it all over. With me, of course, is late. Give me a break, coach, okay? Give me a break. We all ain't had no sleep. I'm known as your humble host, Dave Smith, Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Pearl Game Ultra, Smith Dog Trill, The Rant God, Hotep Thanos. Oh, I can feel the stones now. Throne Thanos, Metro Kaiba, the Pro Black Prodigy, the Shadow Realm Shaman, the Pronoun Punisher, the No Sleep Assassin. Here to bring balance back to Big Brother US Season 23. All of the above on that ISAT test and ACT. You know what it is. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, for the 18th Big Brother 23 rant entitled How Far We Came. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, I had a whole bunch of people telling me, Dave, the game is getting boring. Huh? Every person we know is gonna go home for like 5 days a week. I mean, sure, the first few days of the week are crack, it's lit, but after that it tapers off a bit. Well, I'm here to let you all know you're getting what you want now. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta break this down for y'all, okay? Understand, Derek Xiao won this HOH. He stepped up. Let me remind you all of the backstory here. All the pressure was on Hannah the Huntress to win this HOH because they wanted Hannah to go after SB, correct? Well, DX wins the HOH. His excuse for winning it is, I wanted to protect Hannah. Very noble of an excuse, but let's be real. DX wanted that clout, DX wanted that power, and DX wanted to regulate a bit. And at the end of the day, I stand by my opinion in the last rant. I do believe that DX backdooring Christian is premature. I do believe DX is better off sending someone like Britney or SB to the Shadow Realm for his late game win conditions. Because I am under the impression, and a lot of fans agree with me here, and I think Team Kings really agrees with me because they don't have a choice, but we are all under the impression if DX backdoors Christian, he is just giving the rest of the house the onus and the wherewithal to backdoor him as well. If your only shield is Christian, and yeah, you're on opposite sides of the game, I get it. You'd rather get him before he gets you. But when we're talking about jury, you got to be very careful here. Now, I get it. From DX's position, he doesn't see Christian as a guy who's going to throw him a vote if he makes it to the end. But I disagree with that. I think if you were to allow Christian to make jury and then you somehow still beat him mano a mano, Christian would respect that. I think Christian is getting the raw end of the deal here this week a little bit. The guy had the wherewithal and the foresight to see that, yeah, I could take DX out, but that just makes me the easy guy to go. This is the same guy who didn't want Whitney to go because he wanted the house to have someone they had to target this week. Well, there's no Whitney, and Christian's worst nightmare is coming to fruition because DX is prioritizing the back door of Christian over everything else. I mean, he has Tiffany and Hannah in each ear trying to convince him SB's got to go because from Hannah and Tiffany's perspective, SB leaving is best case scenario before jury starts for the cookout. Because Xiao doesn't know about the cookout's existence, it's very difficult for both of these women to explain to him why SB should go before Christian without exposing the cookout. You know, And Hannah now on live feeds, now she is fully aware of the royal flush's existence. So that alliance is basically dead now because she knows about it. Now, the reason why she knows about it is because Tiffany slipped up. Tiffany was talking to Xiao. I believe this was on Thursday night. Or was this Friday? I want to say this was Thursday night. She was talking to Xiao. She was trying to steer him in a direction. Because understand, DX's initial noms were going to be Derek Frazier and Britney. He was going to nominate two jokers to backdoor Christian. But then he came to his senses and he realized, hold up, if I throw up two jokers, I'm going to make an enemy out of all three of them. Down the line, if Royal Flush turns on me, I'm going to need their 3 votes. So a big reason why DX does not want to nominate 2 out of the 3 jokers this week is because he wants to rely on 2 out of those 3 jokers to vote out who he backdoors, basically. Okay? But it's important for me to break this down because from my perspective, from a lot of pro DX fans' perspective, we would have preferred him throwing up Flambeau next to Britney. Now, I get it. I get it. There are a lot of people who want SB gone, and we're going to get into SB later, but there's a lot of people who want SB gone. I get that side of it, all right? But throwing up Frazier made the most sense for Xiao's game because Frazier has basically given Xiao nothing all game. Frazier has made Xiao into a target at every turn just for sharing the same name. So from my perspective, I think DX walking back his initial thought process was the wrong mindset. I'm going to say that initially. I usually always recommend you go with your intuition, go with your gut. Whatever your first thought is, that's usually your most natural thought. That's your impulse. I feel like DX could have been overcomplicating this HOH week by trying to be so saucy with how he went about targeting Christian. So he eventually comes to the agreement to throw up Sarah Beth next to Britney. Now, in this rant, because it's a deep dive, coach, I wanted to open this up with a freestyle to let you know I know what I'm talking about here. But I wanted to open it up with a freestyle. That way people understand the beginnings, and we're going to get into the middle, and we're going to get into the end of it all. But understand, these notes are going to take a minute, so I'm going to jump into them right away. And by the time we're done with this rant, I guarantee you will understand the full circle picture of everything, okay? Right now, we got people on social media mad because Tiffany's playing too well. Now they trying to cancel her for statements. Yes, a lot's been going on here. There's people doing digging. They don't even think Sarah Beth is it really has a girlfriend. There's people saying that Shelly is really her sister. I mean, it's cracking right now in these streets. So please allow me to break down these feeds. And I want to thank you all for showing up this late to the channel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and please do not forget to smash that like button on your way in. And that's all I can ask for. Now, let's start these feeds off on Thursday night. We're going to cover Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a full-on deep dive. On Thursday night, after the endurance competition, it is revealed Team Kings are have-nots, and Xavier threw the HOH to DX after making a deal to keep himself and Alyssa safe. But after Xavier fell, he tried to change the deal to all of the Kings being safe, but technically Xiao doesn't have to uphold that end of the bargain. And see, that's the thing, Xavier. If you really wanted all of the Kings safe, I'm pretty sure you're smart enough to make that deal with DX when you're up there. I think Xavier went out of his way to make that deal late because he knew it wouldn't be viable because Xavier wanted Sarah Beth gone this week. Let's not forget, based off of the feeds, based off the last rant, I revealed to all of you Xavier was in on screwing over Sarah Beth with Tiffany, with Hannah. All of them were in on it. They were all in on, okay, we're going to get rid of Whitney, and then we're going to make Sarah Beth the next target. Now, this was before they knew the team twist would be lifted, and just to let you all know, the team twist no longer exists. Oh, yeah, you already know that, because on Thursday's episode, the team twist no longer exists. I forgot about that part. But let's continue. DX celebrates his HOH win in the storage room first with Kylan and Hannah. They called themselves Rush Hour 4. And that's basically the thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen, where you see Hannah, and you see Kai, and then you see DX. Yeah, that was their Rush Hour 4 celebration. I thought it was too dope to leave out. And then when you think of the context and what all of these players have been through, Kai was put through the ringer with Frenchie. Same with DX. Hannah was put through the ringer with Brent. I think it's a fair assessment to say that they've came pretty far in this game. So I feel like the title of this rant is very fitting. But let's continue. Hannah leaves the storage room, and DX tells Kylan about the deal he cut with Xavier up top on the wall. It's very obvious to me Kylan is working hard to keep Sarah Beth safe. He was borderline sweating Xiao this entire time the moment he got his HOH key. Now, Kylan is acting like he doesn't care who goes home, but his suggestions for noms are Britney and Ozza. Then Tiffany and Claire come in to celebrate, and Xiao tells them they all made the jury. It really does feel like everybody but Kings is super happy for DX, which is a telltale sign that they're his ops, by the way. I feel like Team Kings did not do a good job of acting here. I mean, in the last rant, I looked at feeds for all of 5 seconds, and I could tell y'all Team Kings was salty in that bathroom. So, please believe Hannah ran that information right up to DX to let him know, oh, they're salty, you won. So Hannah was definitely, throwing more dirt on their wound, more salt on their wound, okay? Like, as she should. I mean, she was just on the block because of Kings. I mean, can you blame her? Now, if DX is smart, he can use this to gain an even better position in this house. When Frazier talks to Xavier, he's scared DX won't take a shot at Kings to target him. Xavier calms Flambeau down by reassuring him his name isn't coming up in any of his talks. Now, Frazier says, thank God I'm black. He says if Julie asks how he got to the end, he's just going to point to Xavier. Frazier even said during the endurance comp, he tried to imagine he was skinny to go over the pain. Hey, real talk, Frazier was in rare form this weekend. He's turning it up on the comic relief side of the game. I mean, even Ozza started bashing SB. There's a lot for us to discuss here. Xavier leaves because he doesn't want to be caught talking to Frazier in the back bedroom. If there is one saving grace with DX winning this HOH, it seems to be bringing Ozza and Tiffany closer together. That's a fantastic sign. If you all didn't notice, during the endurance comp, Ozza and Tiffany both celebrated Alyssa falling off. Honestly, sometimes all it takes is a common enemy for y'all to realize y'all beefing over petty stuff. This is what we want to see more of, Ozza. We want to see you getting closer to these sisters, not hating on them, not resenting them for playing superior games. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. And it seems like the minute Tiffany and Hannah dislikes a woman as much as Ozza, Ozza likes them again. But if they aren't on Ozza's trajectory or path to targeting someone, Ozza just says, oh, we just play this game differently. And she kind of, dismisses them altogether for some reason. But let's continue. Ozza gave Tiffany tons of credit for performing so well in the endurance comp. Ozza says Tiffany keeps up in every single way with the men. She calls Tiffany the second strongest woman in the game when only those two were together in the bathroom. Ozza is starting to see Tiffany for who she is, a star player of the Cookout. When Team Kings get the bathroom to themselves, they are throwing a hissy fit. Christian says DX winning HOH may have been the worst possible scenario after Ozza getting power. SB, of all people, is the least concerned out of the team, which further shows she will feel blindsided if she's thrown up by DX, as predicted in the last rant. But if DX made the deal to keep Alyssa and Xavier safe, SB shouldn't feel safe at all unless she thinks Kylan is the real HOH. She is in for a rude awakening. Based off this conversation in the showers, Alyssa made a deal with DX to get him to drop by saying she wouldn't target him or Hannah. DX, knowing better, didn't drop for that deal, so Alyssa is super paranoid now. But I'm mainly so impressed with how Xavier threw this HOH, and nobody believes he did it. Everyone thinks DX would have beaten him regardless in that comp, which is even better for Xavier's game, because he was allowed to throw something and make it seem like he didn't. Now, Frazier walks in on Tiffany, Claire, and DX and Kai. The first thing Tiffany says is Frazier is going up, and everyone laughs. Frazier then proceeds to make sure DX doesn't throw him up, even though that would be the easy move. Big D is also concerned with Baby D making a deal with Kings 1 week removed from them targeting 2 aces. DX basically tells him the deal wasn't real because he would have never come down. Dan broke this same deal with Ollie during BB10, so DX can target a king and blend back in as long as it isn't Christian or Xavier. Or Alyssa. At the end of the day, if he would have just targeted SB, I don't really think DX is really in that much of a problem. I don't really think he's in that much of a pickle, to be honest. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even want to spoil it chronologically how everything happened. You know what? Let's keep breaking it down as it happens because I want y'all to see how this happens. When DX talks to Ozza, she admits she was most concerned with Alyssa winning HOH. Funny enough, Ozza and Tiffany celebrated silently once Alyssa fell off. Ozza tells DX she is happy for him and he can do whatever he wants with his HOH. DX tells Ozza the deal was to keep Alyssa and Xavier safe. Ozza says she doesn't care what happens this week and says she also wouldn't mind if he nominated her. Once again, Ozza is volunteering to go up when she doesn't have to. But it is what it is. Now, Kylan then walks in the storage room, clearly to spy on DX and Ozza. Apparently, Ozza did more buck dancing during the endurance comp by making orgasmic noises throughout it. So, on Sunday night's episode, if you see Ozza go, all these random noises, coach, I think it's because she's looking for TV time. I don't see how someone in pain would make those type of noises. Sorry. It's not as if we're watching Serena in a tennis match. You feel it, dig me? In my opinion, Ozza's doing too much there. All right? I fully expect production to clown Ozza more on Sunday for this. At a certain point, you can't blame production. Ozza is purposely doing this, and then she brings it back up to remind people for an excuse to make herself seem more sociable. You don't have to be the class clown to have a social game, Ozza. When everyone leaves, Hannah finally has time one-on-one with DX where she apologizes for not carrying her weight enough. Xiao says she better be amazing at memory comps down the line. Hannah then tells Xiao about the Kings meeting in the bathroom. And she tells Xiao that Team Kings is aware one of them is going home. Fantastic recon by Hannah here. Eventually, DX takes a shower and SB congratulates him for winning HOH, but it's so obvious SB wanted Alyssa or Xavier to win. DX tries to downplay his performance by making it seem like he would have dropped, but notice how DX is telling Kings players he would have dropped, but he is telling everyone else he wouldn't have. That shows me DX is taking out a King 1,000%. And Xavier is a mastermind for throwing this HOH this week if Christian doesn't get backdoored. But if Christian does get backdoored, Xavier, this can constitute a choke. Because you were the one who wanted Christian's vote that bad. You were the one who wanted Alyssa's vote that bad. If you cut a deal with DX believing all of Kings will stay safe, and he double crosses you like this, I could fully see Xavier being on a warpath, backdooring DX the first week of jury, and DX is the first jury member. That doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help the DX fans. Christian can't even make jury. I just look at how the snowball effect can get real. And the last thing I want is Xavier taking out DX, and then someone goes for Xavier for taking out DX. Before you know it, we done lost 3 amazingly competent, strong men, one by one, just because DX couldn't wait a week to go at Christian. I just think this can be an L long term. This can be an L. But let's continue. If Christian leaves over SB, you can make the argument Xavier gave Kylan an advantage over him if they are in Final 2. This week will come down to SB versus Christian. Alyssa doesn't want Kylan to be a have-not with her. She wants all the Kings to volunteer as have-nots to keep Kylan away from her. Alyssa also seems super salty that Hannah is so happy now that DX is HOH. But this is a best-case scenario for Hannah's game this week because they can't just blame her for why Kings are being targeted. Last week, SB was so sure she would go home if Hannah won the HOH. I also said if SB were to be targeted by anyone besides Hannah, it would feel like a blindside. I planted these seeds previously because now SB has created an enemy out of Tiffany with her own poor social gameplay. I'd argue Tiffany has been prepping for this HOH the last few weeks by getting closer to DX and pushing so hard against Kings. And when you add how Tiffany connected Britney to SB in the game, it makes sense for DX to begin to question what's really going on. It's clear he wants to work with Kylan and doesn't believe he can make the N without Kylan. So will he play Tiffany's game by getting SB out, or will he play Kylan's game by getting Christian out? That's really what it feels like is happening here. It feels like DX has to he's at a crossroads. Do I play Tiffany's game, get SB out, but Christian is still here to come after me in jury? Or do I take out my nemesis in Christian, gain more rapport from Kylan, and hope that SB works with me in the future? That's basically Derek Xiao's choice right now. As of Thursday night, most of the house thinks a double eviction will kick off the jury. This is only making Team Kings even more nervous. But Alyssa is the main king believing it's too early for a double. I think Alyssa's read is the best. Now, around 9:20 p.m., Tiffany grabs DX to talk in the bathroom after speaking to Team Kings upstairs. But Britney is there, so DX chooses to camp out for Tiffany to wait as she makes a bowl of cereal to stall for time. Tiffany tells DX she is trying to get Kings to relax, but they are scared. Before the HOH, she told DX if he wins power, it's a sign for him to make a big move, so now he should follow up on it. DX suggested throwing up two jokers as pawns with a Christian backdoor. Tiffany says it's too risky to let Christian compete for veto, hence why the backdoor is at play. Tiffany also reveals if they don't get the chance at getting out Christian this week, he will be a sitting duck next week as well because he thinks he needs to throw the next HOH, believing there will be a double eviction in 2 weeks. Now, I think Christian is lying to a degree here. I think he definitely competes for that next HOH trying to get out DX himself. And that's why I kind of understand where DX is coming from here. So Tiffany throwing it out there that a double is coming is making the Kings team doubt their next move. This is more mastermind gameplay in my opinion. While Tiffany has Kings believing she is all in on Royal Flush, she is convincing DX to betray Royal Flush and ruin it. So she's playing both sides effectively here. Xiao is torn between two jokers as a pawn or SB and a joker. Tiffany specifically mentions SB as not wanting Xiao to use pawns to make him want to throw her up even more over Flambeau. Tiffany also tells DX to wait until tomorrow before making his decision because there could be a new twist added in the game to replace the wild card. DX says he is concerned with backdooring Christian because it would leave the men with only 4 men in jury. Hannah and Tiffany assure him that a women's alliance doesn't exist so he can take this shot. Tiffany tells DX to talk to jokers to get a feel for if he wants to throw them up, but don't tell them the whole plan because they can ruin it. DX jokes by saying Tiffany should just take his HOH key. So even he was acknowledging Tiffany was giving him so much game. She might as well be the HOH at this point. Now, DX then speaks to Hannah alone in the bathroom around 9:40 p.m. He tells Hannah his plan. He wants to throw up 2 pawns in Britney and Flambeau, then backdoor Christian. The reason why I believe this to be his best move is because it keeps Kylan happy and it doesn't outright make anyone angry within Royal Flush, at least until after veto. If you're going to backdoor Christian anyway, you might as well not make Kylan and SB mad at you on top of it. That's most people's perspective here. Why piss off SB for no reason if you're just going to backdoor Christian? At the end of the day, jokers, once the backdoor happens, jokers are going to keep Britney over Christian anyway. It's not like much changes, right? But once again, Xiao believes jokers are so weak, if he could figure out a way to work his way and get rid of Flush, he just washes the rest of jokers. Also, keep in mind, Azza later on in this rant, in my notes, I will bring up a deal that she made with DX to essentially ensure her 4 weeks of safety. She kind of stumbled into this deal because DX kind of just threw it. He basically threw at her a 2-week deal, which became a 4-week deal, but we'll get there. That's why this was the best move, because if Nam stays the same, Britney leaving doesn't hurt DX's game at all. And not throwing up a king initially keeps him safe with Royal Flush. Tiffany and Hannah don't want him throwing up Frazier before SB, so it's up to both of them to point DX in a different direction. When he first told Hannah he would throw a Flambeau, Hannah was super nervous about it. She even asked him why Big D over Azza, showing me Hannah views Azza as an op as much as Azza views her as one. For Xiao's game, he has no connection to Frazier, but he does have one with Azza. It makes sense he would never risk Azza here. But this is yet another week Azza asks to go on the block where she isn't thrown up over someone who doesn't want to go up. Eventually, Azza is going to run out of lifelines. Hannah wants DX to cut a deal with Frazier instead. Xiao appears to be most concerned with Frazier blowing up his game if he nominates him, but Frazier couldn't afford to do that while on the block. Xiao second-guessed himself here and made a mistake. He should have trusted his gut and relied on his intuition. Hannah asks Xiao, what if Christian gets a twist? DX says he would send SB or Britney home in that situation. Hannah asks if he would waste an HOH on Britney. But in my opinion, that's not a waste. I hate it when people... Britney... I don't want to spoil nothing, but at the end of the day, I hate it when people say taking out a player is a waste. All these people came into this game with aspirations and dreams to win. Taking out someone who is not your direct ally, who is coming for the men you are working with, is not a waste of a week. Yeah, it might seem like a waste of a week to Hannah because she would prefer SB leaves, but that's not a waste of a week. In fact, Britney leaving allows DX to blend back in. No one's mad at him. That's solid gameplay. Cody Calafiore during BB22 took out Keisha Smith first. Does anyone think Keisha was a big threat? That season, Keisha had nobody. Still took her out first because that was the easiest person to take out and blend back in. No one says Cody, that was a waste of an HOH, bro, because they saw Cody end up winning the game. A lot of people are results-based oriented here. At the end of the day, I think the biggest waste for DX is targeting someone prematurely if it just gets him sent home prematurely, you know? But let's continue. Hannah just wants Xiao to play her game. A real waste for DX is turning on Royal Flush early, allowing Cookout and Royal Flush to target him for doing the Cookout's dirty work. And if there is no Christian in jury, DX is the new Christian. Hannah and Tiffany are pushing him to make a move that won't help DX make the end. But taking Britney out early would be very similar to Cody taking out Keisha during BB22. Sure, you can argue she wasn't a threat, but Cody taking out someone that nobody will target him for getting out made it easier for him to win the game. This game is about winning power and not being hated after losing the power. Xiao taking out Christian makes him hated by Alyssa and Xavier, and it probably makes him hated by SB too. I don't think SB's going to forget this if she survives this week. So now you got three people that still encompass the strongest team that all want smoke with you in jury. When you could have just got Britney out and had those four, even if they turn on you, they look like they full of crap for turning on you. You didn't give them the reason to turn on you yet. See, and then when you add the context of Xavier made a deal with you under the premise that you would keep your word, go after jokers because that's the easy move, and then you don't do that. Look, I'm not saying play Xavier's game. I'm saying don't cut the deal with him at all then. If you believe you was just going to beat him regardless, why cut the deal? That's just how I look at it. Now, maybe he was in a rush to just end the comp, but my perspective is if you believe you wouldn't lose anyway, why even give 2 out of the 4 of them any safety? That's why I'm questioning Xiao a little bit here. I think he overplayed a little bit this week. Xiao taking out Christian makes him hated by Alyssa and Xavier, allowing Kylan to possibly pivot with Xavier to pick up those 2 numbers in jury. I'm talking about SB as well. This situation is very tricky. When Kylan talks to Xavier in the have-not room, they both say this is the most diverse jury of all time. Kai makes it seem like he is willing to let SB go, but it seems like Kai and Xavier both would prefer Britney going home this week. This is just more incentive why DX should throw up Flambeau next to Britney. Taking Britney out pleases all the men but Christian, and Britney is basically another member of King's here. Why not weaken Christian's defenses while keeping him as your shield? That benefits all parties involved. Xavier and Kylan are really worried about losing because of a bitter jury. They don't want to lose like Paul Beta-Hamian did to Josh Martinez. And did you see him get sparked by the Marine Adam Pike coach? Jeez Louise. That's all I'm going to say. They both give Cody credit for taking Derek to Final 2 over Victoria. Kai then mentions this is why he loves Goku from Dragon Ball Z so much. Because Goku wants to fight the best at their best. Oh, I respect this. Because some BB Can 9 folks was not trying to have that. This conversation just shows me these guys are cutting a joker first in the cookout. That's what that tells me. They want to fight with the best at the end. A joker ain't making Final Four. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. Now, anyway, Claire asks Tiffany if they should solidify something with Hannah. There's some alliance Claire and Tiffany has called the Detectives, so I'm starting to figure out that it incorporates DX, Kylan, Claire, and Tiffany. Tiffany doesn't want DX bringing SB into the fold because she is after DX and Hannah. Claire agrees. They want the detectives to be 5 people to control this week's vote. They need 1 joker to vote with them, and they expect Ozza and Frazier to give them the extra 2 to guarantee Christian's departure. Claire believes if DX takes out Christian, Xavier will take out DX. Claire thinks Xavier has been throwing a lot of comps, and they may have only seen 25% of his real ability. SB talks to DX. Dr. Bones throws Britney under the bus now. She says Britney is starting to figure out the numbers of the Royal Flush because DX must be working with Queens and Kings. So SB is clearly hoping DX targets Britney and uses another joker as a pawn. Turns out SB is the only king that isn't a have-not this week because this is her birthday week. So SB will take it even more personal if she goes home this week. Xavier walks in and that ends the game talk. Now, around 10:19 p.m., Tiffany talks to Hannah in the bathroom. She now knows about the Royal Flush and asks Tiffany whose idea it was, Alyssa or Sarah Beth. Tiffany says she doesn't remember. So Tiffany messed up the most by saying royal flush too much in front of Hannah when she spoke to DX about taking the big shot. So now Hannah knows way too much information, and it's Tiffany's fault. Hannah is mad at DX for not telling her about royal flush sooner. Tiffany blames the alliance on Xavier and Kylan, which technically isn't a lie, but Tiffany is downplaying the role she played in that alliance a lot here to make sure she doesn't lose Hannah. Hannah seems super salty DX was included in this team before her. Uh-oh. Now, Hannah plays it off like it makes sense because DX is a comp beast who wouldn't want to work with him, but later on, she complains to Cams that DX must not respect her game enough if he can keep such a secret from her. But here's my question, Hannah. You kept the cookout from him? Does that mean you don't respect his game? See the slippery slope you create for yourself when you just make emotional statements like that? Oh, he didn't tell me about this alliance that could have hurt his game to tell me about. So he must not respect me enough. This guy stepped up by winning an HOH you should have won yourself to protect you. Because let's keep it real. Alyssa, I think Xavier throws that HOH to Alyssa every time. Who does Alyssa go after? Azza, Hannah. Xavier threw that to DX to protect these two black women. And here's Hannah, ungrateful as hell, telling Cams DX don't respect my game enough. Come on, Hannah, we need better from you. Now, we need better from you here. This is where the emotional side of Hannah's game can hurt her. She disregards logic and believes she's entitled to information even if she withholds intel from you. If this was Azza, I'd expect it. But for Hannah to be mad at the guy who stepped up to win an HOH she needed to win for the cookout is stupid. If DX doesn't win this HOH, Xavier is either forced to win it or he's forced to let Alyssa win it. Hannah should be grateful, not spiteful towards DX. DX helped the cookout hide one extra week by winning this. Hannah and Tiffany leave the bathroom. After DX gets the key to the HOH room, Hannah, Claire, and Kai are the last to leave. Eventually, the ladies leave and just Kylan remains. He is still sweating DX something serious. DX needed some antiperspirant the way he was being sweated here. But Kai told DX he had his blessing to target's SB last week. Kylan needs to remember his lies, or else it's hard to know when he's being honest. Based off the feeds, Team Kings and Kylan prefer Britney gone. Everyone else prefers SB or Christian. Kylan proceeds to give advice to DX about how to go about this HOH week. He recommends not telling Team Kings they will make jury. He also wants to make sure members of Royal Flush, not part of Team Kings, know what not to say in group meetings. DX then brings up a conversation from a couple days ago about backdooring Christian. DX wants to know if he should include other Kings members in on the plan to avoid as much blood as possible. The person DX includes would have to be Xavier, because Alyssa would tell Christian beforehand and SB might get thrown up. Well, when you fast forward to present time, he's decided to include SB and keep Xavier in the dark. I think this will backfire on you if you backdoor Christian. If you leave Xavier in the dark on backdooring Christian, DX, listen, coach. Listen, I'm telling you, bro, it's not going to work out like you think it will, man. Kai thinks if anyone is sitting in Final 2 next to a king probably wins if all 4 kings make jury, because that would give them 3 out of the 9 people jury. Then they would only need 2 more votes in that instance. So Kai is trying to convince DX he is willing to let SB go if Christian... He is willing to let SB go if Christian isn't able to be backdoored because Kai knows he could lose to SB in Final 2. So based off this conversation, Kylan doesn't want Britney gone because he sees Kings have too much power if all 4 make jury. Kylan leaves, and then DX starts using the chessboard to strategize. Tiffany walks in after Kylan because she doesn't want him getting the last word in with DX. She tells DX if Christian could be an HOH, he can too. DX seems focused on using this week to solidify something real with Xavier. But leaving Xavier in the dark on this back door will make that impossible, which makes me confused about DX's win conditions, about his motivations, his strategic implementation. How can you argue you want Xavier into the fold, but you're about to backdoor his ally? Like, yo, I mean... Tiffany believes Xavier will make that deal because he won't have Christian any longer to rely on. I don't know about that, Tiff. Tiffany mentions how she said royal flush in front of Hannah, and DX confirms Hannah asked him about it too, but he didn't tell her anything. Tiffany alerts DX to Hannah's jealousy over him being included over her and apologized for compromising him like that. DX made Hannah believe it was a 1 week alliance. Both agree they need to tell Claire so she knows what to say to Hannah as well. I'm just happy Tiffany didn't accidentally mention the cookout here. At least she mentioned an alliance she doesn't believe is real any longer. That's the saving grace there. DX tells Tiffany what he said to Xavier and Alyssa, how X and Alyssa both only asked for their safety, but after the comp, X doubled back to keep all of King safe. Tiffany tells DX that Xavier should have stayed up there longer if he really wanted to add more to the deal. She says DX has 3 choices. Go the easy route by throwing up 2 jokers, then backdooring Christian. Throwing up SB with a joker, with a backdoor, or throwing up Christian and SB straight up. That easy route is the best route easily for DX. That's a lot of easies. But for Tiffany, having SB avoid the block all week makes her uncomfortable, so she is phrasing the action of nominating 2 jokers as easy to make DX want to prove himself more by taking the road less traveled. Understand the manipulation here. She's doing it in a much more subtle way than Azza attempted with Xavier, right? What, are you scared or something? It's like that, but she's doing it in a much smarter way, right? Instead, she's just comparing him to Christian. If Christian could be HOH, you can be HOH. This is your time. I told you before you won HOH, if you won it, you were destined to make this move. So she is playing to all of the things DX really appreciates. She's playing to them very hard. And see, this is the difference between Tiffany's game of manipulation and Azza's failed implementation of manipulation. Azza really doesn't know much about Xavier really to manipulate him. Whereas Tiffany knows just enough about DX now where she can feel like she can manipulate him. This is Tiffany tapping into her inner Palpatine by convincing DX to become Anakin before necessary. If DX throws up Flambeau next to Britney, he's fulfilling his Jedi orders and keeping himself relatively clean within the game. Throwing up SB and Britney is him going to the dark side of the Force by playing other people's games. Now, to be fair to DX, this is Tiffany's birthday. I'm sure that, by the way, happy belated birthday, Queen Tiffany. I'm sure that this is playing a role in why he is listening to her as much as he is, more than his gut. And with this also being Sarah Beth's birthday week, it's quite obvious to me that Tiffany wants SB on the block on her birthday. Okay? Like, it really feels like Tiffany wants to send a message. You gonna be on the block on your birthday. We gonna send a message to you. Huh? You want to not greet me when I say good morning? I bet. You want to target Lil Sis? I bet. It's real in these streets. You know what I mean? DX then asks Tiffany about whether or not Hannah is too emotional as a player. Tiffany acknowledges Hannah's age makes her a bit reactionary, but she at least snaps back into the game fairly soon compared to a player like Azza, who takes forever to understand your moves. Tiffany is right. Azza is more emotional and much worse of a player compared to Hannah, but the way Hannah reacted to not being included in Royal Flush is a red flag to me, especially when all these players she is mad at worked overtime to make sure she had a fighting chance next to Whitney compared to sitting next to Azza. DX then expounds further on his point by saying Hannah isn't that smart of a player by herself. She doesn't know how to ask the right questions to get the right answers. How during week 1, when DX was torn about how to use the veto, with the whole Travis and Kylan thing, eventually he decided on taking Kylan off. Hannah thought he was doing Alyssa's dirty work at that time, believing DX used the veto because Alyssa would have left week 1 if he didn't. So DX is connecting the dots that Hannah plays a very vengeful game because she was trying to blame Alyssa for something Alyssa was never part of. Also, you got to remember, wasn't Hannah trying so hard to matchmake Alyssa with DX earlier in the season? She was trying to figure out if that chemistry that they had played a role in why DX used the veto. Because you got to understand, for a lot of people within this game, they didn't really understand why Xiao used the veto at all because Kai and Travis would have stayed. So for a lot of these women, they believe he only used it to save Alyssa. In their minds, they believe because Alyssa would have been the one who left if Nam stayed the same. So it makes people believe Xiao has this affinity for Alyssa as well. It's important for me to provide that context for you all. And when you add how adamant Hannah is for DX to throw SB up before Frazier, he is getting those same vibes again. I'm happy DX mentioned this because it paints a better picture why he is starting to prefer going to the end with Claire over Hannah. Claire isn't an emotional player from his vantage point. He also mentioned how Hannah wanting Brent out so bad was dumb because it almost set Aces up to lose 3 players in a row if DX didn't win this HOH. Xiao is making some great points here that even Tiffany is having a hard time of countering. And even though it was obvious Queens and Kings were working together, DX is very disappointed that Hannah didn't see it. Tiffany says she trusts DX, Claire, Hannah, and Kylan the most. DX then tells Tiffany about his conversation with SB. Now, here's the thing. As of today, Tiffany does not trust Kylan at all. She went up to Flambeau and told him she trusts Kylan the least out of the cookout now. So a lot has changed since Thursday, so let's get there. Xiao mentions SB throwing Britney under the bus to save herself. Tiffany then says she thought Britney would go after Kings, but now she sees she is closer to Kings than any other team besides Joker's. DX knows Kings keeping Britney off the block last week bought loyalty from her, so DX has his mind made up on Britney touching that block. Tiffany says she is shocked SB would throw Britney under the bus, but this is more of a reason why SB can't be trusted because she will cut anyone not named Kylan. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. A lot of the lies that SB tried to get off this week, oh man, they got clocked so fast. Woo! They're starting to figure out your cadence, SB. They're starting to figure it out. My fault. Tiffany tells DX about how Frazier doesn't trust SB, Christian, or Alyssa. So she is giving DX a reason to keep Frazier safe and pounce on SB by throwing her next to Britney. Tiffany must be a parcel tongue from Harry Potter, because she is snaking these people out. Let's keep it real in these streets. And we got another Harry Potter reference that Tiffany brought up on feeds. It's coming, coach. And I did not know about that reference when I came up with that parcel tongue joke. I want that to be known. This was on Thursday when I wrote this. But let's continue. Xiao then proposes for himself, Tiffany, Hannah, Claire, Xavier, and Kylan to form a new six this week after taking out Christian. They would control the house, no question, not only from a strategic standpoint, but from a physical standpoint. With this plan, all they would have to do is take out Britney, SB, Alyssa, Frazier, and Azza, one by one by one by one by one. This plan is great, but the problem is DX doesn't know about the cookout. I expect this alliance to work for 2 weeks maximum just to get out SB and Alyssa. Then I expect everyone to turn on DX by the final 9. Unfortunately, that's what it feels like to me. Tiffany shows DX that SB is more valuable to Kylan than she is because Kai can use SB to target people he can't. This is what Tiffany is using DX to target Christian for right now. They believe they have this veto on lock as long as Britney doesn't pick Christian for veto. DX wants to throw veto to Kylan, so he is forced to take SB off so they can backdoor Christian. Tiffany and DX agree that's the best case scenario, so all the blood isn't solely on DX for getting Christian out. They agree not to tell SB a thing. They agree on the order of people for DX to talk to, and they agree on the order of questioning for his one-on-ones. Now here's the thing. DX broke his word on this. The agreement was to not tell SB about this plan, but he ended up telling her anyway. Now, he didn't tell her by name who he planned to backdoor, but by process of elimination, Alyssa and X made the deal to be safe. It's got to be Christian. And if SB's already on the block, she knows who you're after because it got to be a king. So, yeah, he didn't tell SB who he's directly after. All SB got to do is go and frolic in the leaves a little bit with Kylan, and he's going to tell her. You feel it, Demi? So you're better off just telling her. This is where I think DX went wrong again. He should not have made SB part of this deal. He should not have given her so much information because now he's in too deep to walk back his plan. Okay? See, I think if he doesn't tell SB all of this and he kind of tests Kai to see what is Kai going to tell her, I'm going to keep playing her code. And if she comes at me a little hot, I'm going to know Kai can't be trusted. I'm going to change my plan halfway through. I'm going to keep noms the same and SB can go. In my opinion, that's the best way to really test people. Don't just be all in on a plan too early, especially before veto comp happens, you know. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into Friday's feeds. DX starts his one-on-ones early, around 7:30 a.m. Alyssa and Christian are trying to figure out what to say to DX. They both agree to say they would target Britney and Azza because another girl should be going home before jury. Kylan has Alyssa missed it to believe DX won't go after a Royal Flush member, so Kai is making sure everyone blames DX solely for this backdoor if it happens. Pay attention here. Kai is setting you up to fail too, DX. You need to look around, bro. This backdoor... Listen, okay, yeah, kudos. You're going to get credit for a move, that big move, that really hurt Kings. But when it's all said and done, are you going to be able to last after that move? You can't compete for the next HOH, meaning you're hoping you get picked for a veto in the final 12? I don't know, bro. What? Actually, no, that would be final. That would be final 11. I don't know, bro. I don't know, bro. You know, the chances of you being picked when there's still twice as many people as competing in veto weekly, I think you're in a tough spot there. I mean, using your own logic, DX, if your argument is, I got to take the shot now because in 2 weeks, Christian is more likely to be picked for veto than he is now, well, there is still a percentage chance he isn't picked for that one, right? And in my opinion, there's a percentage chance you aren't picked for the one you're going to really need when it's time for them to want to backdoor you. I'm just saying, man, you don't want to set this type of a precedent, man. Now, as this is happening, DX starts his first one-on-one with Claire. He reveals he has 6 questions that are called the 6 questions of doom now that he will ask everyone equally. Claire and DX laugh about the Firefighters Alliance that never was during week 1, talking about how everyone they liked made jury besides Travis. When asked who she is most threatened by, Claire says Christian. But that's a big lie. Claire wanted to weaponize this showman's when Xavier was HOH just a week ago. 2 weeks ago now. Now she only wants Christian gone because she sees DX does. Claire also chooses Kylan as a big threat in her game. When DX asks who they should work with besides Kai and X, Claire isn't sure because X seems like he isn't playing hard at all. That means you're playing very well, X. If Claire can't clock you, you're playing really good. But then Claire mentions her not being able to read X makes her more nervous about him. How X talks with Tiffany, Hannah, Big D, Azza, and Kylan. Oh, snap. She's figuring out the cookout. This girl got to go next week. Claire is starting to figure out the cookout, and she is further showing DX why he needs to work closely with her amongst the detectives. Claire admits she probably loses towards the end if detectives make it there, but she would rather give herself a chance at the end over no chance. Now, Claire then proceeds to snitch on SB, saying Xiao's name as a target a week ago. This is true. I remember SB saying to Claire at that time that she wanted DX and Hannah gone. But Claire is wise to throw it out there that if SB would say that to her, she probably is saying more to Kylan. Claire is keeping focus on only Christian and SB as mentioning DX to keep his eyes on only those two leaving this week. Claire helps DX with how to implement his questions before she leaves the HOH room. Now, here are the 6 questions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read them off to you. And as the notes go along, I'm pretty much going to allude to everyone's answer to these questions. The first question is, how do people feel that teams are over? Second question is, how do you feel personally? Who do you feel personally is the biggest threat to your game? The third question is there anyone you would like not nominated this week? Question number 4 is, and this is a 2-parter, have you ever mentioned my name to anyone? And have you heard my name mentioned by anyone? Question 5 is another 2-parter. Would you be willing to be a pawn this week? Would you be willing to make a deal before jury to secure your safety? And question number 6 is, what would you do if you were HOH? Now, in my opinion, this is once again a little bit overplaying, okay? And the way this dude had his gummies out there, just trying to remember the question by touching it, I'm like, bro, come on, dog. You gotta have a better, structure than this. But anyway, Kylan comes in for the second one-on-one. DX asks Kylan about the team twist being over, and Kai says he doesn't think it changed much. He asks him who he is most threatened by, and Kylan says Christian. So are you looking at that? Kylan and Claire both said Christian is the biggest threat to their games. So look at Xiao, someone who aspires to work closely with Kylan. Clearly wants to work closely with Claire towards the end of the game. These are 2 of the people I think he respects the most within the house. If both of them declare the same person as the biggest threat to their games, he thinks I can take this person out and blend back in because all these strong players want it. But he doesn't know the cookout exists once again. Kylan is asked if there is anyone he doesn't want nominated, and Kai doesn't say a name. Instead, he segues to who he doesn't want going home, but then he doesn't say a name until DX asks if there is someone he wants to keep safe. Kai then says nothing in complete silence for 6 seconds before saying Hannah. We all know he wants to say Sarah Beth, but he didn't. Kai denies ever saying DX's name and then says the only person who has said Xiao's name is Christian. Xiao asks Kai if he's willing to be a pawn. Kylan says yes. That surprised me. Kai also says he is willing to make a deal to secure jury even though he doesn't have to. When asked what he would do as HOH, Kylan says nominate 2 jokers and backdoor Christian. Kylan tells DX don't plan beyond the veto, stay focused on the flush until it's time to take the shot. Alyssa is next for a one-on-one with DX. She tells him she is so happy he won HOH because she wanted Hannah to feel good. Ain't nobody buying that. Come on, coach. You know what I mean? I just wanted him to feel good. What is this, Monsters Ball now? Let's continue. She says Hannah would never be put up at all if she had won HOH. But then later in the conversation, when DX asks her who she would target, Alyssa has a Freudian slip and says Hannah's name first. Exposed. DX promises Alyssa her and Xavier will not touch the block, and he will keep that deal. When Alyssa is asked who she is most threatened by, she says Azza for admitting to want to target her and Christian. So Alyssa keeps her scripted story of going after Britney and Azza so far. Then Xiao asks who was Alyssa most threatened by out of Royal Flush. Alyssa says SB and Kylan. She is lying about SB. She is more threatened by Hannah than SB or Britney. Xiao asks who Alyssa wants safe, and she says Christian, Xavier, and Hannah. He asks Alyssa who has said his name, and she owns up to it, but she also throws Flambeau under the bus for doing the same. She also bashed Frazier for mentioning Claire's name. So now DX has intel on Frazier he can use later in the game. And when you add to the fact that Claire has also been throwing Frazier's name out there just to see if anyone cares if he's targeted, it seems like if Claire wins an HOH, I think her target's going to be Flambeau. I do think so. I don't think she has the heart to go after Xavier so early. I think she's going to try to kick off jury going after Frazier. I really do believe that, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. But to be honest, he should have thrown Frazier up after Alyssa told him this. Xiao Kahn then asks Alyssa if there is a deal she would like to make before jury, but DX already has a current deal with Alyssa because of Xavier. So he had to rephrase it for future weeks. Alyssa keeps acting like she wants Hannah as the 9th member of Royal Flush, but we all know she wanted Whitney to stay. Xiao asks Alyssa if she is willing to be a pawn, and she says no. He then asks who Alyssa would nom as HOH, and the first name she says is Hannah, before saying that was a mistake. She meant Hannah and Frazier would not go up. This one Freudian slip ruined Alyssa's credibility throughout this whole conversation, and it probably explains why the things she said about Frazier didn't chase Xiao's game plan. He caught her lying, so it's hard for him to trust the rest she said. Alyssa gives DX the advice to go after the people he thinks would never give him a vote at the end. Alyssa knows Azza would never want her winning this game, so that is motivating her to want Azza out with Britney next to her as a pawn. She's also smart enough to know DX doesn't have a problem with Azza, so doing the move that's best for his game is all she can recommend. I fear Alyssa made it even harder for Christian to convince DX not to target him because she slipped up and admitted she still wants Hannah gone. That one slip-up confirms a lot of what Tiffany has been telling DX behind the scenes, and the slip-up also justifies Hannah's beef with Alyssa as well. Not only that, it shows DX that Team Kings are still after aces after the Team Twist was lifted. Meaning, Alyssa is lying about wanting 9 members of Royal Flush, meaning Royal Flush is good as dead because she didn't tell her alliance member the truth. Alyssa made Tiffany's job so much easier because DX was beginning to doubt Hannah and waffle on backdooring Christian a bit. Now he is back on course with the plan because Alyssa choked. Also, meaning she ain't going to be in my top 5 power rankings this time, so y'all can be happy about that. Also, Alyssa saying she doesn't trust SB gave DX more incentive to believe he ruffles less feathers by throwing SB up over Flambeau because Alyssa didn't mention him as a threat to her. All of this is connected, y'all. And I hope future players of the game take notes on these rants because I try my best to break down the mistake to the T so other people can correct it when they're in this position. Alyssa leaves. Christian comes in after her for the next one-on-one. Christian says he feels good after teams are over because of how his HOH week went. Christian tells DX regardless of the deal Xavier made with him, he trusts him. Christian then tells Xiao he is most threatened by Azza and DX. He's most threatened by Azza, and DX wisely acts surprised to cover for Azza. Remember, Azza told him about the mistake, the choke she made a week ago by telling Christian and Alyssa she would come for them. You would think these people would notice Azza cuddling with DX enough not to bash her in front of him, but it feels like they can't bash Britney because they let her avoid the block even though she was the house pawn a week ago, so here we are. Christian says in Final 8 he is most threatened by Kylan. Christian then mentions how Kylan's memory is so good based off his vast recollection of movies. Christian then admits he isn't a strategic threat, and since he and DX are more so physical style players, they should keep each other safe and turn on Kylan. DX asks who Christian wants safe, and he says Alyssa. Christian also admits to saying Xiao's name week one, but that only happened because Christian thought Frenchie and Xiao were conspiring against him back then. When DX asks who else has mentioned his name, Christian throws Frazier under the bus. So now both Alyssa and Christian have made it known how much Frazier wants Xiao out. Problem is, Xiao can't trust this information because of the source it came from, despite its validity. Xiao asks Christian if he would be willing to make a side deal to secure Jury. All Christian says is they are each other's shields, which is once again the truth. Christian tries to get DX to see he has competed in twice as many comps as anyone else. He needs Christian around because his profile is too threatening. Christian and Alyssa are pitching for this 4-person deal where DX and Hannah join forces with them. Fake. But DX is questioning Hannah already too much to go down that road with them. Christian also says if he wins veto, he will do whatever DX wants with it. DX asks Christian if he's willing to be a pawn. Christian says no because he's not pawn material, just like Brent. Xiao asks who Christian would nominate as HOH, and Christian says Britney and Azza, just like Alyssa. Christian did better in his one-on-one than Alyssa did. I'm actually quite impressed. Christian then leaves. After the one-on-one, Christian goes to the bathroom to compare notes with Alyssa. Alyssa never admits to Christian she slipped up by saying she would target Hannah. Alyssa then tells Christian DX told her Xavier only asked for his safety and Alyssa's. So Christian is now nervous because he was under the impression Xavier kept all of them safe, not just half of the 4. Sarah Beth is next up. DX is definitely talking to all the ops first. You feel it, dig me? He asks SB who among the 8 she is most threatened by, and SB says she doesn't know. When asked who she wants safe, SB says the Royal Flush plus Hannah. So do you see a pattern here? Everyone who preferred Hannah leaving last week over Whitney, now all of a sudden Hannah's biggest fans. Huh? They got the big #1 glove in the stands. You feel it in me? Y'all crazy as heck. Then SB admits she felt unsafe with Hannah because Christian and Alyssa told her 2 weeks ago Hannah was coming for her during Xavier's HOH. This was a bold-faced lie. I have no idea why DX bought this lie. Feels like he bought it just because he wanted an excuse to work more with Kai. That's my opinion, but let's continue. I don't know if this is true, but this further shows how dumb SB was last week for targeting Hannah so hard. The entire Team Queen saw her risk her game just to put a spotlight on Hannah. For Kings to think Queens wouldn't tell DX this after winning HOH makes them look even dumber. And for SB to blame all this on Christian and Alyssa just further shows why Tiffany doesn't like her. A day ago, SB tried to blame Britney for why DX's name was in her mouth. Now she is blaming Alyssa and Christian for why she was after Hannah. Not only does this ruin Alyssa and Christian, it also shows SB will turn on anyone to save herself. I hope DX is taking mental notes here and uses this against SB later. Why would you want to cut a deal with a woman who so easily can turn on Team Kings after they were so hard-body, thick as thieves a week ago? Now, I get it, the team twist was lifted, but nah, man, even that's a little too funny style for me. Too flip-floppy. I'm getting Whitney vibes off SB now. Now, doesn't it make sense why she wanted to keep Whitney so bad? I'm just saying. Now, SB then proceeds to pick anyone from Team Jokers as a target if she was HOH. SB then says Britney is the one she trusts the least out of Jokers. But I'm not buying that either. Tiffany isn't either. Why would Britney trust SB enough to bash Hannah and DX if SB doesn't trust Britney? Oh, see, now that's the $1 million question right there. See, do I got to repeat that for the people in the back? Why would Britney trust SB enough to bash Hannah and DX to her if SB doesn't trust Britney? That makes no sense. And why did SB wait for DX to win power to snitch on Britney if she trusts her the least among Jokers? Oh, y'all not hearing me? It's too much logic in the streets. This is why a person like me cannot be misted in the game. Because I'm going to ask the right questions. Like, huh? That don't even add up to me. Sarah Beth comes off very fake in this conversation. This is the same woman who thought it was a secret she wanted Whitney to win veto last week. Her read on how she is being read is very off. Now, DX then asks SB if she has any questions for him. SB makes her question centered around Hannah, the girl she just said she has no problem with. Now SB is trying to see if DX is going to turn on Royal Flush for Hannah. But why would SB even inquire about that if she said she no longer has a problem with Hannah? SB was better off not saying anything else. Now DX knows Tiffany was right about SB. But once again, DX's obsession with wanting Christian out right now before jury makes him let a lot of stuff rock with SB this week. A lot of stuff he's letting rock. Just because of straight fear for Christian. You know what I mean? It's the truth, yo. Christian in the checkered room tries to prep Britney for the questions DX has. Britney seems less nervous. DX will take that shot, but she should be nervous too. Britney tried to get Christian to backdoor DX last week. Christian said he wouldn't do it because he needed a shield, leading him to sending Whitney home, one of Britney's allies. Britney is going to take this backdoor hard. I can feel it coming. Her crush on Christian is going to become obvious if he gets backdoored. She might go off more than Alyssa. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Britney won the veto. At this point, y'all know Britney done won the veto. But let me throw a curveball at y'all. What if Britney was so thirsty for Christian, she was willing to not use the veto and stay on the block just to make sure SB leaves, because now she hates SB, right? What if Britney likes Christian so much she's willing to sit on that block another 4 days just because she knows she stays over SB? Would that be mastermind gameplay for Britney? Or would it be too risky? Because in my opinion, if I'm Britney, I'm taking the risk. Because at this point, nobody can afford to let SB and Christian stay. They gotta cut SB. She's the king. If I'm Britney with the veto, I don't use it. I got 2 votes in the bank with jokers. I know Hannah's voting out SB. That's 3. I only need 6 votes. Tiffany wants SB gone. That's 4. Ozza wants, well, yeah, at this point, Ozza and Frazier. That's 6 right there. No, I already mentioned Ozza and Frazier. Hold on, take that back. That's 4. Hold up, let me not cheat. Claire votes out SB. That's 5. And now you just need, Xavier. Xavier votes out SB. I think he goes with the house there. I think he votes out SB. I don't think he wants to be a sitting duck and have a vote where it's like 7-3 or something. Xavier's more likely to make it 8 versus 2 or something. And I think Alyssa is smart enough to go ahead and vote with the house too. We just saw them do it to Whitney, right? But I'm just throwing that out there, just trying to break the fourth wall for a second in between notes. There is a chance here that Britney could decide not to use this veto to keep her boy crush around. I'm just saying there's a chance. That's all I'm saying. Oh, you said it could be on the Jed side of the game. Oh man, Jed. Oh man. I don't even want to bring that up, man. That was an L for black men right there. But hey man, it's good to see Jed living his best life. But anyway, now Xavier talks to DX after SB. He doesn't believe the Team Twist ending changed much, just like Kylan. Xavier says he isn't threatened by anyone. Oh, this man's an alpha male, ain't he? But he does have a reason to want Britney gone. He then asks who X is threatened by the most within the flush. Xavier says he would keep physical threats around his shield, similar to Jeremy Collins did in Survivor Second Chances. Xavier believes a big target leaving makes his target grow bigger. This is what I want DX to see to not backdoor Christian this week. DX hides his cards in front of X, but does tell him he is being pressured to take a shot at Team Kings. Xavier then asks if he is keeping that deal for all of Team Kings or Alyssa and just X. Xiao says he would prefer to leave it as is until after noms and one-on-ones. When Xavier is asked who he wants safe, X says all of Royal Flush. So smart, X. I feel like Christian and Alyssa made mistakes of saying specific names. Xavier stayed with the alliance. Very smart. He asks X which 2 people he would keep safe heading in a jury. Xavier says Kylan and DX outside of Team Kings. He also admits Claire is on the bottom of Royal Flush to Xiao, which may hurt Xavier if Claire wins HOH sometime soon. That's probably the only mistake I saw Xavier make this entire week so far. Fees then switch back to Britney talking about if Xiao is a real, well, you could argue throwing the HOH to DX if he gets out Christian was a mistake too. Let me be honest there. Fees then switch back to Britney talking about if Xiao is a real man, he will throw up Christian straight up and give him a chance to win the veto. Quotes like this make me feel like Britney not using that veto. If you're a real man, you're going to throw up Christian legit and you're going to compete. Look. I'm all for criticizing beta male-based gameplay, coach. But nobody owes you nothing in this game, coach. This game is built off deceit. If I got to lie, cheat, steal Eddie Guerrero, RIP, I'm going to do what I need to do. But that is what it is. So, in my opinion, Britney has all the makings of a possible a possible bitter juror if this backdoor goes down. Britney says backdoors only work when everything aligns. Whoever the initial noms are have to be people DX is okay with going home. Britney then says if she wins veto, she won't use it, but she could be thrown up. But if Britney is on the block, would she take the same risk for her boy crush, or would she save herself? I think this girl is thirsty enough to stay on the block to sacrifice SB, but I think the house could flip to keep SB if Britney does all that just to keep Christian safe. See, that's the tough part there, right? Could her not using the veto and ruining the backdoor plan of Christian, could that lead to everyone just flipping and taking her out? Oh, you idiot. That's why I'm telling y'all, for all the people that think the game is just going to keep being more and more boring, all of these unanimous votes, eventually stuff got to start hitting the fan. And right now, people are starting to taste and smell that money. Okay, once you get to the jury, that's when they're like, okay, the first stage is over. We made it through the preliminary round. All right, now it's time for the big leagues. Now people gonna start sending the Infinity Stones. The Infinity War is about to go down. Right. So at the end of the day, listen, man, I want Christian to make this jury because I think he's earned that spot. But at the same time, though, my biggest reason for wanting Christian to make jury is because I want to see the best DX in jury. I don't think we'll see the best DX if he gets Christian out before jury. And that's just my opinion. Claire and Alyssa discuss the one-on-ones. Alyssa finds out DX isn't asking about threats within the 8 to certain people because he never asked Claire. That should tell Alyssa a king is in big trouble here. Alyssa leaves Claire to talk to Xavier and the Have-Not. They compare notes on the questions DX asks. Xavier was wise to prioritize the whole 8 staying safe over just his team, while the rest of his team prioritized certain people within it. Xavier not saying specific names should keep him in a good position as long as Claire doesn't find out she's on the bottom of his idea of Royal Flush. Both Xavier and Alyssa agree DX would be stupid to backdoor Christian. He would just follow him out that door. Christian then goes to Tiffany. He tells Tiffany about the question she helped DX come up with, and Tippy Toes is acting oblivious to everything. Really? 6 questions? That's interesting. Her plan is working. Christian leaves Tiffany to meet back up with Xavier and Alyssa. All 3 agree if he turns on Royal Flush, 7 people are coming for him. Technically, it would be 3 after him because 1 king would leave, and the 3 queens want DX to do it. For DX's long-term game, he should be targeting a joker to blend back in, then making an enemy out of a king who is much more likely to win a comp. I couldn't agree more with this take from all 3 kings. I'm okay with SB leaving, because Xiao can still make sense out of that. But backdooring Christian just starts a snowball effect of big threats going. DX talks to Azza. He asks her the questions. Azza wonders how long the remnants of the team twist will be in effect. She says she is most threatened by Alyssa. When asked who are the 2 people she wants safe this week, she obviously chooses Frazier and Britney. Azza says she never mentioned his name and only said aces to target Whitney a week ago. She also covered up for Frazier by not saying he said Xiao's name in the past. Azza says she doesn't see a scenario where she ever puts DX up. She then says she will do whatever he wants. This leads to both making a deal for 2 weeks where Azza doesn't touch the block, but this turns into a 4-week deal where she won't go home, leaving Big D last for a one-on-one. After Azza leaves the HOH, Xiao is smacking some candy and realizes this deal he just made with Azza gives him the option to throw a Big D in Britney now. This got me excited that DX was going to make the best move for his game. Now DX knows as long as he keeps Alyssa and Azza around, they will go after each other. Now DX is fully becoming a Jedi Master Manipulator. Pay attention. When Frazier walks in, DX acts like he doesn't know what to do. Flambeau says it's as easy as 2 + 2. Xiao asks Frazier who would take a shot at him. Frazier says the Kings. Frazier puts focus on Xiao targeting people who can beat him in comps. DX begins the 6 questions. First thing he asks is the pawn question. Flambeau hesitates, forcing Xiao to tell him he isn't going home. Frazier explains his fear is going home as a pawn because of his great social game. He's got to be trolling another HOH again. Now, to be fair, his social game is interesting. It low-key is a spectacle to it. If you watch it and you're not sober, you will chuckle at some of the stuff that comes out of Frazier's mouth here and there. It's oh man, and don't wait till we get to the whole debate he had with Sarah Beth. Oh man, that was the clash of the titans right there. Sarah Beth, I'm really the target this week. I think you should throw veto because if you guys take off Britney, Asa will just go up. Like, shut up. Ain't no one trying to hear that, coach. You know what I mean? But anyway, Big D admits to being scared that people can use he say, she say arguments against him if he's on the block as a social threat. Frazier says if DX wants him to be a pawn, he will do it. He also says he won't make a fuss about it. But then Frazier says he is playing with fire by throwing him up if it comes to that. DX reveals he needs pawns for a plan he can't expound on any further. Frazier believes DX should use a pawn from Team Kings because at least he can guarantee that Kings member leaves if Nam stayed the same, juxtaposed to Nam staying the same and two Jokers being stuck on the block. Frazier made some good points here that weren't emotional. These kept him from touching the block, in my opinion. Frazier says if he was HOH, he would be doing what DX is doing. He would throw up someone he knows would target him later in the game next to someone he is uncomfortable with. Britney would be the one targeting DX down the road, especially if he backdoors Christian, and SB would be the one DX is uncomfortable with. Frazier passed this test with flying colors, in my opinion. Frazier also wisely drives the point home that these women will go after each other, so DX doesn't have to necessarily take one of them out himself. Hannah and SB are at odds with each other, while Azza and Alyssa are at odds with each other. Also, Frazier snitched on Britney, wanting Alyssa out as well, and vice versa. So really, the only women that aren't playing catty games from DX's perspective are the two women he's working closest to, Tiffany and Claire. But I guess you could argue Tiffany is kind of catty towards SB, so I guess it's really only Claire. But then some of the social justice warriors would say, oh, well, Claire was in on what Tiffany said about SB, so she's catty too. So I don't know. But I feel like Claire and Tiffany are the most level-headed women in the house, though. All right. And by Frazier confirming things DX already suspected, I believe he earned some trust here. I'm sure DX didn't expect Frazier to admit Britney dislikes Alyssa, but Frazier even doing that makes him seem like more of an individual player who is no longer loyal to Jokers. But if there is one mistake Frazier made, it's in telling DX he would never vote him out. DX could hold a grudge with Frazier in jury if he targets him as an HOH after making such a promise. Based off this conversation, I think Frazier wants SB or Alyssa gone before Christian just because he wants 5 men in the jury. Britney tells Azza what she said to DX. Britney thinks if DX is smart, no Joker hits the block. Britney and Azza believe everything rides on Big D to keep all 3 Jokers from the block. Big D did a good job in his one-on-one, so it won't be his fault if a Joker touches it. DX talks to Hannah and she asks him how the talks went. DX isn't sharing much information with her because it's not her HOH, it's his. And because DX told Tiffany he doesn't trust Hannah's read due to emotions, it makes sense he isn't sharing names with her because he doesn't know how much she will use this information. Truth is, Hannah hasn't earned his trust like Tiffany has because Hannah hasn't won anything yet. Hannah even asked DX if he is throwing her up as a pawn because he wasn't sharing anything with her, and he told her that's not happening. It feels like Azza is now more in Xiao's late game plans than Hannah is because he at least knows Azza is going after Alyssa, who he can't target. Also, Hannah is another loyal Tiffany number. Xiao needs numbers he can rely on later that Tiffany doesn't have full control of, making Azza perfect for that role if she becomes a better player. Now, granted, you got to put an asterisk next to becomes a better player. Hey, man, I got to keep it a bean in these streets. You know what I mean? Hey, man, I'm just being honest, man. You got to put an asterisk next to Azza becoming a better player. That's not something that's for certain. You feel it, dig me? I mean, death and taxes, something we always know is coming. But Azza getting better at the game, hey, we got to be careful there. Anything can happen. Now, DX then discusses fearing throwing up SB, her staying due to a backdoor, and then her and Kai becoming stronger through the adversity. Hannah comes up with an idea that SB going up could drive a wedge between her and Kai, but nobody believes that will happen except Hannah. Hannah wants DX to hurt his game by throwing up SB over Frazier, just so she has a shot to get SB out if noms don't change. DX is smart enough to realize this is an unnecessary risk because Britney going home over Big D is a lot easier to bounce back from than SB going over Britney. Hannah then creates a straw man's argument that throwing up Britney next to Big D somehow makes an enemy out of a likely ally if he lets Frazier stay off the block. But DX has already learned Frazier has thrown his name out there countless of times to many people, proving Hannah's argument to be null and void. Also, with Hannah now knowing about Royal Flush, it's quite dumb to ask DX to make enemies out of 3 people to maybe have 1 ally later. That math doesn't make sense either. This is why DX doesn't trust her fully. She tries to manipulate him into playing her game without seeing things from his perspective. His beef with SB only exists because of Hannah saying she would target SB over Christian and Alyssa. If DX connects these dots, Hannah created herself into a target as much as SB did if SB just told him the truth. Now, I can confirm that SB didn't tell DX the truth. So Hannah didn't necessarily make herself into a target. SB made Hannah, she declared her as a target, but we'll get to that. Tiffany corrects DX later. So if the women are just going after each other anyway, the best move hands down is taking out the girl most likely to target a guy. That's Britney. Hannah wants DX to think this is a waste of a week, but Britney wanted Hannah out over Whitney last week, further showing Hannah is blinded by logic when she has a beef with a woman. Hannah thinks because Britney wants Kai and X gone more, she should be kept another week. But if DX just made this 4-week deal with Ozza, why wouldn't he want Britney gone so Ozza has to rely on DX more? The more context I add, the less it makes sense for SB to go up this week. Hannah believes DX being on the radar of SB should make her his main target, but he's also on the radar of Frazier, the man Hannah is saying is a possible ally for him later. Why is Frazier worthy of forgiveness but not SB? Do you see how DX could view this talk as Hannah being obsessed with SB? I think he's starting to come to the conclusion that Tiffany is obsessed with SB too. Shoot, I think he thinks Tiffany is getting to Claire. Because all these people want SB going. He's like, yo, she got to you too? DX has a lot more on his plate than just Hannah here. DX says he thinks Frazier and SB both told him the truth, making this decision even tougher for him. I think both of them lied, but I think Frazier lied less. Hannah keeps driving it home that the way Kings acted after Xiao went HOH should tell him who he can or cannot trust. Hannah then asks what Xiao's fear is in throwing up Frazier and SB. DX acknowledges the week could be wasted on Britney. Hannah then gives Xiao a great suggestion to throw up SB and threaten Christian not to use veto or Alyssa goes home. So really this comes down to sending Britney home but feeling like it was an underwhelming HOH versus SB staying after DX threw her up. I would let Britney go and reassess everything else later. Hannah leaves. When DX speaks to Britney, he tells her she is going up, but she will feel a lot more safe than she has in previous weeks. I really doubt that, DX. I mean, this girl was on the block next to Brent and Frenchie, some of the sure targets ever. You know what I'm saying? For you to make the argument that somehow SB is more of a surefire go-home target than Brent and Frenchie, that's a lie. Now, if your argument is SB's going to come off and then Christian's going to replace her and she's sitting next to Christian and that's more safe than anything else, then I can smoke a bag of that. But for you to just imply the latter, I don't agree with that. Now, Britney tries to figure out if DX is backdooring someone, but DX doesn't budge. He doesn't even tell her who is going up next to her. All he says is the people she is most comfortable sitting next to is someone that will touch the block. Now, Britney told him in her one-on-one before nominations that she was comfortable sitting next to any member of Team Kings, so that's what he's alluding to. DX says if what he plans to do plays out, there will no longer be a team game, and it will fully become an individual's game. Britney agrees to go on the block. Kylan speaks to DX one more time before noms to coach him on his speech. He tells him to focus on being as vague as possible and he will be okay. As this talk continues, production calls DX to the diary room to make the nominations. Right before he goes, Tiffany catches him to make sure he sticks to the plan. Tiffany is slick, man. Every time Kylan tries to get the last word in, Tiffany knows. It's like she has a secret camera somewhere. Like, seriously. All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, everything we're going to cover from this point further in the notes is post-nom. So this is after Britney and Sarah Beth are now on the block. Fees return around 3:37 p.m., and we witness the fallout from the nominations. Team Kings are in the have-not room salty while Britney is doing her weekly cry on demand. Team Kings is blaming Kylan for these noms as if he wanted SB thrown up. Kai was in the dark as much as anyone else here. Now, he was aware of the Christian backdoor plan, but he was in the dark in terms of the actual nominations, so that's the truth. Alyssa seems to be the only one believing Kai didn't know. Xavier is pissed DX didn't throw up two jokers. DX messed up. But to be fair, Xavier was down with betraying SB last week, so as long as Christian isn't backdoored, Xavier probably won't take this too personal. But if Christian goes over SB, DX better hope Tiffany, Hannah, and Claire protect him from Xavier, because he gonna need everybody and they mama to keep X from him. These Kings then realize, Team Kings then realize Hannah had to have played a role in this, which she did. So Hannah might think DX is taking all the blame for this, but he isn't. She also now is more disliked than before, all because she didn't want to sacrifice Britney. Hannah turning into Ozza on us out here. Team Kings believe, that's a good joke. Team Kings believe Xiao's speech didn't make sense, meaning Kylan's advice played a role here because the vagueness has Team Kings so confused over who the target is. Alyssa thinks there is a chance all of Team Kings could compete for veto, but now they know Britney can't afford to work with them because their loyalty is more to SB than her. So maybe I'm underestimating how smart these noms are if Britney is forced to be anti-Kings the rest of the week for survival purposes. SB points out if they had listened to her by taking out Hannah, DX wouldn't have fought so hard for this HOH. I disagree with that, though. I think DX wanted to secure his jury spot regardless, and Hannah leaving may have motivated him just the same, if not more. I mean, let's not forget, DX felt like he was on the bottom of Royal Flush regardless. So if whether Hannah leaves or Hannah stays, he still feels on the bottom of this alliance and wants to take a shot at a member of the alliance, I think he still goes for this HOH no different. DX told them he went so hard for this HOH to secure Hannah's safety, but live feed viewers know he is doubting Hannah right now, meaning that was the alibi he gave to keep people off the scent to him being on to them. Alyssa believes there won't be a backdoor. She has missed it completely. Christian wants SB to pick him for veto if she has the chance, and they are hoping Xavier gets picked too. I find myself rooting for Christian to be picked for this veto just to make the jury even more juicier. Team Kings agrees DX feels on the bottom, so they vow to take him out next week. SB admits she was blindsided by the nominees as predicted. Kings noticed how Queens weren't mad or surprised during the nomination speech. Also, they don't believe Tiffany had anything to do with this. They are still blaming Kai. Seems like Whitney is rubbing off on them because they are blaming Kai for everything Tiffany is doing. Because DX promised safety to X and Alyssa, the plan is for Christian to win veto and take SB off to force DX to get more blood on his hands and reveal his true loyalty. Because if they do that, and he still puts up a king, they know for a fact he must be flipping with jokers. DX spoke to Kylan, and he authorized SB knowing about the backdoor plan to keep her more comfortable this week. But they don't want SB picking Christian for veto at all. Kylan then leaves to let SB in the HOH room. SB goes in the HOH to replace Kai to talk to DX. So Team Kings talk with Kylan. Kylan proceeds to regurgitate what Xiao told him, how these noms were made because they are the best mathematical decisions, but Kai also doesn't know who the target is, same as Kings. Now, he did lie about that part. Kylan, X, Alyssa, and Christian all agree these noms don't make sense. Kylan thought he was the closest to DX inside the Royal Flush, but after these noms, he now realizes they aren't that close. So now Kai is starting to think jokers are working with DX too, or at least this is what he's trying to convince Kings he believes. When SB comes in the HOH room, you can hear crickets for over 2 seconds before DX reveals to her she isn't the target. He explains to SB she was the only choice to throw up next to Britney because he would have lost jokers the rest of the game had he thrown 2 of them up. I disagree with this, but I see why DX would use this excuse. SB then asks DX at what point would he need Joker's votes. DX says if anyone else throws him up, he needs their votes. The thing is, I think Frazier and Britney turn on DX even if Ozza has his back if he hits the block next week. Relying on Jokers in this game is foolish. I mean, Tiffany won't even do it, so why is DX doing it? DX even told SB he isn't planning on replacing her with the Joker. So Sarah Beth exhaled deeply before understanding this move. Now she sees she was thrown up and told about the plan because she can't afford to warn her team while on the block because they'll just sacrifice her over Christian, making it more likely she picks Kylan for veto over Christian. Well played, DX. SB even asks how he is so sure she would pick Kylan for veto, and Xiao Kahn just stared at her soul like Shang Tsung for 5 seconds. She literally was like, what makes you think I'm going to choose Kylan for veto? You could literally hear a cameraman accidentally smack against a pipe on accident in the back room somewhere. It was so quiet. You know what I mean? Come on, coach. The jig is up. We know what it is. You feel it, dig me? Now is not the time to act like you aren't close to Kyle and SB. DX then asks who would go up if Christian takes SB off. Sarah Beth says she doesn't know, and it was wise for DX to not say anything. She then asks for him to promise if he's using veto on her, and DX says he will use it on her or Britney. Smart DX, don't promise nothing right now. You got to hold her accountable. Now, Sarah Beth eventually starts giving information Xiao can utilize. She admits she's on the bottom of Royal Flush as much as DX. She admits going along for the ride until Final 8 would have left her in a bad position. She even acknowledged she isn't completely opposed to this backdoor plan because of it. So slowly but surely, survival mode kicked in, and with DX knowing SB will target Hannah and Tiffany before him, he really has no reason to want her out this soon either, because he is setting up the women to take each other out as he tries to weaponize jokers to his advantage. He is pivoting well, even if I think this wasn't his best move to make. Eventually, Kylan comes in the HOH with SB and DX. DX makes sure to tell them both the same thing he said to them individually. Kylan understands now more than ever why DX chose this route, because in the other scenario where Flambeau is on the block next to Britney, nobody in Royal Flush does anything with the veto. With this plan, it forces everyone to win veto and want to use it for their game, even if they aren't part of Royal Flush. DX then proceeds to explain he had more of a game reason to throw up a king than two jokers because two kings targeted two aces back to back, on top of SB wanting Hannah out a week ago. So even though it's more messy for him to go this route with Royal Flush, he has more good competitors on his side to make sure Christian is backdoored this way. It's confusing, but it makes sense when you look at it this way. DX wants to convince the house that Britney is the target, but they still would expect a joker to be thrown up next to Britney if she's the target, because they are 2 votes for Britney to stay. If DX wanted Britney to be the perceived target, he should have put that in his speech. To make this his mantra now comes off as insincere. If DX knew he had more game reasoning to throw up SB, he should have put that in his speech. I'm worried DX has to keep up a complicated lie because he chose to play an overly complicated HOH week. When DX met with Team Kings, he lied straight up to them by saying Britney is the target, but if she comes off, another joker will replace her. He's actually got them believing Frazier will replace her. I hope Britney doesn't win this veto, because DX will be in all kinds of trouble. Oh, and he's in all kinds of trouble now. So let's get into Saturday's feeds. Oh, man. This is when SB was getting shitted on by a lot of players in all directions, coach. Around 8:50 a.m., Azza is talking to Frazier about Kylan, telling her that she would have been nominated next to Hannah had Alyssa won HOH. Azza says one of her biggest fears is being sent home next to Hannah because everyone prefers Hannah over her. It's true. Everyone, even the fans, prefer Hannah more because Hannah isn't targeting women for non-strategic reasons like Azza is currently doing. Let's be real. Even the 4-week deal Azza secured with Xiao was kind of handed to her. She didn't have to do much, if anything, to earn it. So she needs to be working on getting closer to all these Cookout members that prefer Hannah instead of complaining about it all the time. Now, around 9:20 a.m., Frazier talks to SB. Oh, man, this was a debate of all debates. Frazier talks to SB, who is now on board with his secret plan to get Christian thrown up. SB wants Frazier and Azza, if picked for veto, to throw it because she wants them thinking taking Britney off will get another joker thrown up as the pawn to secure SB's departure. But then later in the conversation, SB acts like she has the numbers to stay. She acts like if a member of Team King is on the block, come Thursday, they aren't guaranteed to go home. She claims the only way that all the jokers and her make the jury is if she comes off the block, not Britney. As if Britney winning veto and Christian replacing her doesn't lead to that very same outcome. This is proof SB is blatantly lying to Frazier, thinking he's dumb. She is underestimating these jokers a lot. For SB to imply DX would throw up Azza when Azza and Frazier are both aware that DX likes Azza just further shows SB is losing the plot. Then we see Frazier ask SB if it's okay for him to apply pressure on other members of Team Kings to make sure this misunderstanding doesn't fester. Because SB basically tried to blame their misunderstanding on Alyssa and Christian, I believe. But then when Frazier said, hey, I'll go get Alyssa and Christian, we'll compare notes and see who's really the real culprit here, SB's like, no, that's not fine. It's all fine. It's a misunderstanding. Whenever someone talks like that, they're not really trying to get to the bottom of nothing. They coming up with a whole lot of nothing, a whole bunch of excuses, and they hope you buy the BS. That's what's going on here. Frazier is too smart. This dude grew up in Philly. He done seen way too many people try to J down. This ain't gonna work, coach. Well, if you are talking to him because he said a king has to go for having 4 players, there is no misunderstanding. He said what he said, and kudos to Flambeau for not walking back what he said. No joker should feel sorry for SB when she didn't feel sorry for Frenchie. Now, the veto players picked this week, ladies and gentlemen, are DX, SB, Britney, Alyssa, Kylan, and Claire. The deck is stacked against Christian. Only Alyssa winning veto keeps noms the same, and I expect Claire to throw this thing. Now, around 11:11 a.m., DX tells Claire and Tiffany he doesn't want to throw this veto to anyone but Kylan. All 3 of them agree Kylan isn't that good at comps. They also agree if Team Kings were this scared about DX winning HOH, they didn't think the alliance was that real either. After talking to Claire and Tiffany, Alyssa then pulls DX to the HOH for a one-on-one before veto. Alyssa wants to know what's best for Xiao's game if she wins veto. DX keeps the lie going that Flambeau will be going up as the replacement nom. Alyssa then asks if there is a backdoor plan on Christian. Xiao emphatically says there is no plan, and he was considering making SB his target over Britney. His excuse for changing his mind is SB. Wait. Oh, my fault. Okay. His excuse for changing his mind is SB convincing him Britney needs to go. After Alyssa leaves the HOH, now Xiao is more focused on making sure Alyssa doesn't win veto. And because all the veto picks this week are royal flush, there's an argument to be had that DX made the smarter decision by not throwing up 2 jokers, because I don't think Christian gets backdoored in that scenario unless DX won veto himself. This scenario at least allows Kylan to want to contribute similar to how DX contributed to Kai getting out Frenchie. DX now knows he will probably have Alyssa pissed at him the rest of the game regardless, but this move may have got him closer to SB and Kylan. Taking Christian out also forces Alyssa to be on an island, and now Xavier is forced to pivot or be on a perceived island with Alyssa. So now DX is hoping this move creates tension between Xavier and Kylan. I doubt DX gets all of this from this week. I think Xavier is more likely to have tension with DX than Kylan. That's the biggest misread I see from DX here in his talk with Alyssa. Now, around noon, Britney reveals to Xiao that Alyssa plans to win veto and keep noms the same because she isn't close to SB. Britney also reveals to DX that maybe he should consider getting her out over Christian because she is the glue keeping Kings together. Here's the thing. Stuff like this is more reason why I think Britney just might hold on to that veto and not use it. I think she feels super safe right now. And I think she knows Christian is a huge asset for her game. And if she can figure out a way not to use the veto, and then she runs up to Christian and tells him what that plan was, DX is completely compromised, SB is sacrificed, but now Britney can just replace SB in the King's ranks. Isn't that all Britney wanted all along? Now Britney is allowed to flip on jokers? I'm telling y'all, if Britney is worth her salt in this game, she's going to at least consider not using this veto. And she's going to consider it. I'm not saying she's going to not use it. I'm just saying I could see a scenario where she doesn't use it, and then we get a crazier timeline where Christian makes jury, SB is gone, Britney now has pivoted to the highest of all levels. Woo! When you talk about an infinity war, that would give us Feeds gold right there. That would give us Feeds, but it takes Britney to really do something unthinkable to give us Feeds gold. Now, granted, I think if Britney uses the veto and Christian gets backdoor, we get Feeds gold anyway. But I think Feeds will be a lot more interesting if Christian and DX are guaranteed jury and Britney does the ballsy move of basically turning on a girl who was her friend just days ago to keep the man she's in love with. I mean, the poetic justice in that, man, I'm telling you, I'm talking people into an alternate timeline that would be lit in these streets. I know, it's what I do. Britney also reveals to DX that maybe he should consider getting her out over Christian because she is the glue keeping Kings together. Take her out and the rest of the rats scatter. DX believes he has no influence over Alyssa. Britney says ever since she got thrown up next to SB, Dr. Bones hasn't said a word to her. So this tells DX Tiffany had a solid read on Britney and SB prior to this week, because why would Britney take it personal if her and SB weren't close? You see that? Why would Britney go out of her way to mention how little SB is talking to her now unless they were really cool like that? So I hope DX is also depositing this into his memory bank. Alyssa believes Britney stays over SB, So all of Kings are okay with letting her go at this point because Christian is too important to the other three. Plus, Alyssa doesn't want Kai to have SB and Jury as much as Tiffany and Hannah. So ironically enough, the stars are aligning for SB to leave. Britney tells DX that SB is rubbing everyone the wrong way. A lot of that is due to her being in on this plan with Kai and DX, but she can't afford to tell her team the plan because she wants veto used. Maybe I need to rethink my take on DX's HOH, because if he pulls this back door off, SB now is detached from Alyssa and Xavier, Kai will owe DX for letting SB make Jury, and all the women are still at odds with each other. The only thing that scares me is that he will have Xavier and Alyssa going all out to get him out. Britney then proceeds to explaining she thinks Whitney went home because of Alyssa, but that's false. Alyssa wanted Ozzy and Hannah on the block, not Whitney. So Britney is another lady on this season playing emotionally, trying to save Christian to get Alyssa backdoored off false information. Britney then mentions what Hannah told her about Team Kings. Christian is the comp beast, Xavier is the protector, SB is the brains, and Alyssa is the glue. I'd argue Xavier is the brains, the comp beast, and the glue. He just ain't letting y'all know it yet. Now, around 1:20 p.m., Xavier and Tiffany talk game in the HOH room. X is concerned he might get backdoored as much as Christian. This chat was important because it shows me Tiffany wants to possibly replace Kylan down the line with Xavier in her late game plans. Also, this chat shows X has been acting mad when he doesn't really mind these noms. Both Xavier and Tiffany don't mind sending SB home over Christian if Britney somehow wins veto. So are you noticing a pattern here? There is a chance that Tiffany's obsession with SB could form a scenario where DX backdoors Christian and they still keep Christian just to get rid of SB. Ladies and gentlemen, do y'all understand the chaotic timeline that would create? Listen. All right, for all the people who want an Infinity War to pop off, you should be rooting for Tiffany and Xavier to pull off saving Christian over SB. You should be rooting for this, because now that Britney's won veto, that's really the only timeline that leads to the most chaos, because it would force DX to make the ballsy move of, I backdoored you, bro. You're done. Then for the house to keep Christian? Now Christian is all after DX? Man, listen. From a gameplay standpoint, from a cookout standpoint, that might be the best case scenario for this alliance to breeze further and further into the game. Because, once again, the Brigade had Rachel and Brendan always arguing with Britney and Reagan. And because all of that was popping off, they got to skate and skate and skate. And then when it was too late, what did they do? Betray Britney, betray Reagan, you feel it, dig me? And they was sitting good. So all I'm saying is, DX may have handed the Cookout an opportunity to screw him over royally, keep Christian to go after him, and now all of the things DX thought he was so smart for putting in motion, when he could have just let Britney go. Now, I get it. If Britney wins this veto anyway, Dave, then Britney would have won the veto next to Frazier. Then he has to replace Britney on the block. Well, in that scenario, you still can choose between Christian or SB. But guess what? It's not SB and Christian on the block in that scenario, right? So whoever replaces Britney in that scenario goes home every time over Frazier. In this scenario, with Britney winning this veto already on the block next to SB, there is a chance this Black Alliance can make DX look like the dumbest player of all time. I'm telling y'all how this is looking. There's a lot of different paths. Britney could choose not to use the veto, believing that keeps Christian. But if she's convinced by Tiffany and these other players using veto will still keep Christian, and she can be off the block, oh man. Woo! Boy, it's going to be like someone unleashed a game breaker in NBA Street. You Xiao finna be like, what just happened? Game breaker. Dun, 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 dun. All you gonna see is Xiao like, what the? Well, you know what I'm saying? It's not gonna make sense to him. In his mind, how did Christian have the votes to stay? Who flipped? You feel it, dig me? Tiffany believes best case scenario is Alyssa winning and keeping noms the same to get SB out, but Alyssa will be pressured to take SB off, especially since DX promised not to backdoor Christian. Xavier admits he and Alyssa promised to take off SB because of Christian. Xavier also admits he was happy with DX winning HOH because he did want Hannah on the block 2 weeks running. Xavier says if Christian survives this week, they will have to take out DX first because he has what Christian doesn't, a brain. Oh, man. I'm like, what is this, Wizard of Oz, coach? Damn, y'all going in on Scarecrow. But anyway, Xavier and Tiffany both are growing tired of Kylan's meetings. The new boot order, if Britney leaves this week, would be SB, then DX, then Christian, then Claire, then Alyssa. Tiffany is most concerned with Claire figuring out the cookout, but she doesn't want to give up her +1 until both Kai and X lose their +1s. Now, around 1:50 p.m., Hannah talks to Tiffany in the bathroom. Both women agree it's best for the cookout if SB leaves now, but it's best for DX to get Christian out. The only problem they see is DX backdooring Christian will be him blindsiding Xavier specifically. Tiffany makes sure Hannah knows to deny having any knowledge of this backdoor plan. Hannah says DX is very naive to believe a voice actress isn't good at acting. Now, technically, this isn't her real occupation, but Hannah has a good point. I'm a bit disappointed DX bought the lies SB sold him so quickly. Tiffany even calls SB the moaning Myrtle of this season from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. No, when I tell you this was one of the funniest scenes, go back to 1:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on these feeds, coach, and watch this scene. You have Tiffany like, I can't believe DX bought those lies from Sarah Beth. Like, all she had to do was start acting like moaning Myrtle. I'm moaning Myrtle. Oh my God. Oh. Like, she was going in. And you could tell at first Hannah didn't get the reference. Then Hannah caught the reference. Oh my God. Listen, man, Tiffany, listen, you're already an all-star. She called her Moaning Myrtle. And when you look at a picture of Moaning Myrtle, coach, Sarah Beth's face can't escape that ghost now for me. Now, every time I look at Moaning Myrtle, I see SB. She did it. Tiffany did it to me, man. Now, every time I think of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I think of Tiffany and Sarah Beth. I'm scarred for life now. You know, Tiffany could easily be a stand-up comedian if she wanted to be. Now, around 2 p.m., Tiffany talks to Frazier in the same bathroom after Hannah leaves. She tells him she trusts Kylan the least out of the 6. Tiffany needs to be careful here, though. She's giving Flambeau the ammo he needs to make Kai target Tiffany first out of the 6 himself. This is the opening Ozza and Frazier needed to make Final 5. She shouldn't let her anti-Sarah Beth agenda impact her game like this. Tiffany and Frazier agree it would be so dumb to turn on the 6 before necessary. But she doesn't know if SB was next to a Cookout member like Xavier, whether or not Kai would vote out X. She even said Kylan fell off that wall like a platypus compared to X. Listen, she was going in earlier today on them feeds. She was going in. It got to a point where she was talking to Frazier in front of the mirror. She was like, do you need to calm down a little bit? She's like, I don't get no. You know what I'm saying? Listen, the Detroit was coming out. You feel it? Dig me. Now, DX speaks again with Tiffany and Claire. Now he uses the excuse SB gave him as to why she was targeting Hannah. You know, the excuse that made Alyssa and Christian the scapegoats. Tiffany and Claire wisely correct DX to tell him SB was lying because Alyssa was always after Ozza and SB wanted out Hannah. When both ladies asked DX who told him that, he says Kylan and SB with a smile on his face. Come on, DX, you should have known better than this. So now DX knows he got played into a backdoor designed to make him hated more than Kai or SB. Tiffany says it's not that she wants Christian to stay, it's that she wants SB gone. DX has put this plan in motion, so he doesn't want to believe SB and Kai are playing him because he wants to be in the middle of them along with Claire and Tiffany. So it feels like this is what DX is hoping for. I got Claire and Tiffany over here. I got Hannah up here. And hopefully I have Kai and SB over there. From his perspective, I basically have a 6 right here, right? Now, he wants a different 6 that incorporates Xavier. But once again, I think Xiao believes if this goes correctly, he's straight. But once again, even with that 6, how many of that 6 is more loyal to Xavier than you? Kylan, Tiffany, Hannah. The only people more loyal to you than Xavier is Claire and SB. And SB might not be more loyal to you than Xavier. She might flip right back. You never know, you know? And this is why you don't need to be making deals with the devil, coach. But yeah, so So he also wants Ozzy to go after Alyssa, who would be alone. DX says he is fine taking this risk because he doesn't think SB will get him out before Christian. DX then brings up how this is his only chance to take Christian out. Nothing will line up as perfectly in 2 weeks as they are now from Xiao's perspective. Tiffany failed at trying to make SB a bigger threat than Christian. Britney talks to Frazier around 4:30 p.m., and now Jokers can't stand SB anymore because she is trying to get them to convince Britney to throw this veto and believe another Joker will just go up. These blatant lies are just pissing off the three Jokers more because even they aren't that stupid. Sounds like, that's funny, they aren't that stupid. Sounds like what Tiffany said to Frazier has him more mad at SB because he is looking at Kai funny style now himself. He even said Kai is probably doing his best Denzel Washington impersonation by acting like he will take SB off the block, which Kai was. He was acting like it. And Frazier couldn't be more spot on. Ozzy is pissed because SB tried to play the pity party game by saying she quit her job just to come on this show. Nobody cares what you gave up. Tiffany left her son at home. Everybody made sacrifices. You feel it, dig me? Like ain't nobody trying to hear that. I left my job for this. Well, you told us you were a voice actress. You sound rich to me. This is why you got to be careful about what you lie about. See what I'm saying? And see, Ozzy's already connected the dots. How you a voice actress working in Florida? You know, wouldn't it be more advantageous for someone in Hollywood to, I don't know, live near Hollywood? Now, granted, you have the naysayers and the SB apologists saying, oh, well, you can have the right type of equipment to record your voice at home from anywhere. Oh, it's a remote location. All that hot stuff. But at the end of the day, we're going to get to other lies that got exposed. Now, this is hilarious to me because a week ago, Jokers wanted to protect SB more than Hannah. Now they despise SB for playing the victim card, talking about how she can't afford to not make the jury. As if jury is an expectation, not a privilege. They also are mad SB hid her hatred for Hannah from them because it shows them SB doesn't trust them. Ozzy is pleased with this week because DX followed through with her plan even if he chose different noms. Ozzy and Frazier both agree Kylan ruined her game because she got caught up in him. Frazier then looks at the camera and says, I wonder what her girlfriend Shelly back at home thinks of this. When I tell you the Paramount Plus chat room have been investigating this story all day, Coach. Now, I don't know what the facts are. Now, all I know is somebody found some page on IG regarding some girl named Shelly, and now people are saying this girl could be SB's sister, not a girlfriend. I'm not here doing all this investigative work. I'm just telling y'all the stuff that I've seen. Now, other people are telling me her girlfriend really exists. Other people tells me her girlfriend doesn't really exist. I don't know who to believe, so I'm not even going to chime in on that. My specialty is the strategy within the house. Now, so let's continue. Fans have even dug up Kylan's ex-girlfriend and found out she wore the same heart-shaped sunglasses as SB does in the house. Big Brother fans are some of the best private investigators I've ever seen. And people are starting to connect the dots that, well, she does kind of look just like SB a little bit. Now people are saying, oh, this is Kylan's type. When Frazier tried to call SB's bluff by having her confront a king, she was in no rush to do so, despite blaming why she's on the block on a misunderstanding created by the team. That tells Frazier that SB is a little flustered here. Ozzy says if she wins HOH, she wants Alyssa and Christian on the block. She says she will never put up DX because her hands are tied. She then says if one of them comes down, she will ask Xavier to be her pawn. So this woman lusts over a man to the point where she looks obsessed, and instead of thinking of Claire as a pawn, she chooses Xavier first? Why does Ozzy's pawn have to be black? She mentioned Kylan and Hannah also as possible pawns. This is why we don't need Ozzy winning HOH anytime soon. Let Ozzy tell it. She would choose X just because he is a king. But why risk Xavier like that next to Alyssa? Feels like Ozzy is concerned with X trying to save Alyssa in this scenario. Now, around 5:50 p.m., Tiffany, Claire, and Xavier discuss the veto. They all don't want veto used at this point to get SB or Britney out. Tiffany wants Kai in the dark to think the plan is getting out Britney if noms stay the same. As long as Britney wins veto, SB doesn't get off the block, allowing them to take out SB regardless. I expect Claire to throw this veto, though. She doesn't want to piss off DX by stepping on his toes. Then Tiffany brings up how SB mentioned she was single out of nowhere today. If you remember, that lesbian cover-up allowed SB and Kai to not be perceived as a showmance no matter how close they got in the first week of the game. Well, now that SB has admitted to being single all of a sudden in the house, now they know SB is capable of lying about anything because the first thing she said was a lie. Claire and Tiffany, now more than ever, think Kai and SB knew each other before the season. This is when the conspiracy theories get a little crazy. Also, SB said she couldn't wait to go to Disney World with Kylan. This led to Tiffany sarcastically asking Claire, well, what about Shelly? Come on, man. The comic relief today, man. These feeds, dog. Tiffany then says there is no Shelly. If there was, they agreed to break up before coming on here because she likes Kylan too much. Exposed? Claire connects the dots that SB said she was a lesbian just so she would never be linked to the men of the house. Claire believes she truly is bisexual, but she clearly is using sexual orientation for strategic purposes. Tiffany said she did it to have an edge over the competition, which I agree with. Tippy Toes then says SB could have fooled her because she is more into men than women. Tiffany even said she might be more into women than Dr. Bones. See, Tiffany know how to roast people, man. Tiffany knows how to roast people, dog. She knows how. And that's why these fans that are so mad about the season being too colorful, you get my gist, that's the reason why they're blowing what Tiffany said about SB out of proportion. They don't like how much excellence she's exuding every week on these feeds. And then on top of that, she is just saying whatever she pleases. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm seeing more people outraged by Tiffany just questioning whether this girlfriend really exists outside of the house. More people are more outraged by that than they were outraged by BB21 when the N-word was said. You know what I'm saying? So these people are showing us their outrage is completely fake, right? Their outrage is based around, oh, we need to figure out a way to ruin this black alliance. Okay, their best player, let's start some fake controversy with her. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. Y'all look desperate right now, yo. Y'all look desperate. We that dominant that y'all blowing this little thing out of proportion? 20 years versus 20 days. Claire and Tiffany talk about as early as day 2, Kylan said he had SB's back. They mention how SB is scared to marry a woman, but she seems ready to risk it all for Kylan. Tiffany then says it shouldn't matter if the person is a man or a woman. If you love them, you shouldn't care what anyone thinks. Once again, what has Tiffany said that's so bad here? Can you believe there are butthurt fans trying to cancel Tiffany for these comments as if she said something so derogatory? I get it, Claire is by herself, so I can see why certain people would expect more from her. But people being this mad at Tiffany, overstating facts, just tells me she is playing so well they are reaching for reasons to hate on her. It's not Tiffany's fault SB is bad at lying. It's not Tiffany's fault SB buried her game trying to get Hannah out. It's not Tiffany's fault SB blamed her own mistakes on the showmans. And it also isn't fair that someone can lie about being bisexual, maybe, maybe not, for personal gain within the strategy, but those who are proud of being heterosexual don't have the same pivoting prowess. If you're going to use sexual orientation to help your game, you need to also have tough skin to take it on the chin when it's used against you within the game. I see nothing wrong with what Tiffany did, but I do see that she should chill out a little bit because her game is as elite as it's ever been. And the last thing I would like to see is her blow a 3-1 lead here. She can't afford to become what SB was last week, obsessed over a target. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was essentially my notes for this weekend. Woo! And now that we know for a fact that Britney has won veto, before we get into answering questions, I'm going to ask y'all a question. Do you think there is any percentage chance Britney doesn't use veto to get SB out and make sure Christian makes that jury? I think there's a chance. Might be a small chance. I think Britney might do it. I think she's that obsessed with Christian. She might do it. But I'm on my way to the live chat. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to smash that like button for the kid. I've brought y'all up to speed. 3 full days of live feeds. Put in your front door, coach. It's super late. Where I'm at, it's 3:11. That was actually my dorm back in college. I remember they used to call me Crip Killer because that was my dorm number. I used to be like, wait, that's what that really means? You know me, I ain't no street dude like that. So I didn't understand it. Like, man, what, you Crip Killer? That's what they used to always say. But I'm on my way to the live chat, ladies and gentlemen. You feel it, dig me? And I hope y'all enjoyed this how far we came rant. I hope I did a great job of showing y'all every single perspective. You know, why Tiffany and Hannah are pushing so hard for SB. why someone like Xavier and someone like Kylan wouldn't mind Britney leaving if they can keep SB if Christian's off the table. There's a lot of moving parts here. For Ozza, Frazier, and Britney to all turn on SB, that's another reason why I think there's a chance that Britney could choose to stand with this veto, not use it, just to get SB to make sure she doesn't make the jury. You have to think about it. Britney is really after Kylan. Why would she want Kylan to keep SB as she loses her Christian? You know, Now that she knows that SB is kind of throwing her under the bus, she really has every incentive in the world to repay that favor. That's why I think this next 2 days of feeds, because understand Monday afternoon is the veto ceremony. So, oh man, depending on how that ceremony goes, please believe I highly recommend y'all become a patron. Because on Wednesday night, I'm bringing back the Patreon exclusive rant because I have a feeling the Infinity War is about to commence. I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I have a feeling. Coach, why didn't you name this rant What About Shelly? LOL. I didn't name it What About Shelly because at the end of the day, it was a small percentage. I know you're joking, but it was just a small part of what I was trying to say. Steve P says they most likely started the Tiff slander. Possible. It's possible. Mark Wilson says, you are by far the best Big Brother YouTube broadcast. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that, Coach. And I don't care who you are, what color you are. Hey, man, I'm here to provide analysis for everyone. And that's what's up. So welcome to the RBR family, Mark. It's good to have you here. And I'm happy y'all stayed up this late for the kid. That lets y'all know how much of super fans we are. Because I stayed up late to get y'all this, so whether y'all wake up for church in the morning, whether y'all wake up for a workout, whether y'all go to work tomorrow, y'all might not even be off on Sunday, right? Y'all have this 2 hours of a deep dive to dive into. You know what I mean? Or you could be saving it for the weekday. Who knows? But I always try to get y'all this information as soon as possible so y'all can do what y'all see fit with it. Lexi says Xiao needs to let the people he trusts in on his plan to get Christian out so they can tell him it's not going to work. Well, see, that's the thing, man. I fear he left so many people in the dark he should be trusting, and he let SB in the light who he shouldn't be trusting at all. And it felt like he only did that to throw Kylan a bone so Kylan doesn't feel like he's up to no good and trying to actually secretly get SB out. But if that's the case, don't throw up SB at all, and that goes to my original point. Just throw up Frazier then, right? That way Kylan doesn't have to question you. And at the end of the day, do you expect Frazier to win an HOH before SB? Probably not. So why not safeguard yourself? This is the same philosophy behind why Kylan threw up Britney, right? Over putting up Brent next to Frenchie. Same philosophy why Xavier threw up Britney, right? Instead of throwing up Whitney next to Brent. It's the same philosophy. I feel like DX did not learn enough from that philosophy. Yeah, he threw up Britney too, but then he threw up SB, and he don't even want SB to go. So it's like, yo, it's half-stepping. And I think some of it, you're putting a little bit too much hot sauce on the chicken. You know what I mean? A little too much hot sauce on the chicken. Rod says, this all depends on how long Alyssa and Christian stay loyal to X and Tiff. It's a gamble, but could work. However, Alyssa and Christian are eligible for HOH this week. I don't know who they would possibly target. I would guess DX and Ozza, but I don't know. And see, that's another thing. I feel like no matter how you feel about SB, you got to take out Christian if he's sitting there, right? How do you keep Christian in that scenario and then try to work with DX in the future? Like DX, seriously, DX would feel like he's back to week one where he can't trust a single soul, where everyone's alienating him, ostracizing him. He would feel just like that all over again. If he went through with a backdoor plan he thought people were giving him a vote of confidence to do, and then they just keep Christian because they hate SB so much, man, that would break DX's heart. If Hannah, Tiffany, Ozza, all these different people decided to keep Christian, man, it would hurt him. And I don't even want to see him put in that type of a position because he's just a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? But once again, this game isn't won by people for being nice. This game is won for people for being heartless for the most part. And I fear DX is trying to flip that heartless switch too quickly. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to be a nobody on the Kingdom Hearts side of the game. You know what I mean? That stare had me rolling. Now, for real though, DX, she was like, "What makes you think I'm gonna choose Kai for veto?" DX was like, "You feel me?" He was waiting for her to be like, "Yeah, okay, let me stop." You know what I'm saying? Like DX was looking at it like, "Come on now, I'm throwing you a bone here. Can you at least own up to your little showmance that's popping off in these streets?" You know what I mean? King Lefty says this season's breaking more archetypes than Thanos broke hearts. Oh, King Lefty, you deserve the Infinity Stone. And besides, I think you're a patron anyway. SB archetype normally slide to the end. See what happened when you give us a fighting chance. This is what I tried to argue. When you start to level the playing field, you get to see that everyone has a capability of being extraordinary if they're surrounded with the right support system, you know? And we're seeing this season when people don't have the way above and beyond majority, and when it's a bit even, you're seeing the cream rise to the top every time, you know? Yeah, it felt like about 30 seconds, Rod. It really did feel like they were just staring at each other, coach. They was having a staring contest. I think Tippy Toes is still playing the best game. X a close second. Uh, Britney needs to have a meeting with Christian. Yo, what's good, last done? Welcome to the chat, coach. Turn up. Yes, please hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget. But y'all got some more questions? I know it's late. I know y'all probably trying to hit the hay, but it's Saturday night. If y'all got any more questions, because understand the next rant gonna be Patreon exclusive. So I'm trying to throw the public a bone here. You know what I'm saying? By answering y'all questions, because y'all won't see me again until Thursday. So do y'all have any extra questions, coach? She said Myrtle gave Harry the diary from Voldemort. Oh, yep. What was his name? Tom Riddle. And then it was like an anagram for Voldemort. It was like Tom something Riddle, and then it formed Voldemort. I remember that. But see, that's what makes the reference by Tiffany even better, because it's not just a low frequency reference. It's actually a spot on reference. Because Moaning Myrtle moaned a lot, had that high pitched voice, and she kind of looks just like SB. It's low key hilarious how she thought of that on the fly. Like, I feel like if I was in that Big Brother universe, yeah, I would think to say Infinity Stone here and there. Yeah, I would think to say a few lines that y'all are used to or accustomed to me saying on YouTube. But at a certain point, you would think about your game a lot, and maybe you wouldn't always be yourself because you're always in game mode. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not gonna hold y'all any further. I can tell y'all are tired, and at the end of the day, I'm happy that I got you all up to speed in a fairly fast manner, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could, please not forget to like this video, comment underneath it, and share it with all of the fans of Big Brother US Season 23 that you rock with. Once again, this was the 18th rant of Big Brother 23 entitled How Far We Came. And I'm Dave Smith with Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. Until next time.